Shalawam. This is Adasabasai One returning with the signs of the times, and we are going to take a look at part 2 again, as in the days of Nach, who is Noah, concludes, and this is a revision because of the recording, the quality of the recording for this particular study was not very good. Uh, I was having troubles loading it, so I figured maybe people will be having problems loading it as well. And I tried uploading again, creating a second video of the same study, and it was the same problem. So I just thought, you know what, let me just go and record a new video for this part 2 and see how that works out. Right? I mean, a thought entered my mind. This is the devil's device, and he doesn't like it when when we're exposing his business on his own devices, right? So whatever. But I I want to say that, since doing this study, and the reason why I'm doing this study is because of all the different things that have been happening in this world today, all the evil, all the wickedness, all the things that Hamashiach told us to look out for, the wars and rumors of wars, all the different false prophets, you name it. He said to look out for those things because they are signs to let us know that his gathering his people, his return to the earth, well, he be coming in the clouds to regather his people is very near. So, you may have a thought in your mind, some people, because I certainly did when these things started to happen years ago. It's like, what is going on here? Why is the world gone crazy? And, bit by bit, he started to reveal things to me. All the things that I'm revealing to you now, he has given it to me in stages. I'm giving it to you in one lump sum. So hopefully you can bear with me and bear with the information. But this is all why this evil is occurring on the earth, especially now. It's happening now because the devils know that Hamashiach is coming soon to regather the southern kingdom, and their days are numbered. Another major thing that I was made aware of is that there are two bloodlines on this earth. Two bloodlines. This is what this entire study is going to be pointing at. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, all the way through to Part 6. Yes, there are 6 parts to this series. All right? We have to be aware that of the fact that there are two bloodlines on this earth. The first bloodline was the bloodline that Allah Hayam Yahweh created when he created man and woman in his image. He created them in his likeness. And then we have the other bloodline that was corrupted due to hybridization. And we looked at that in part 1. When the angels of Allah Hayam, the watchers, took wives and went into them, and they bore children with the daughters of men. That's the hybridization right there. The children became the hybrids. And this hybrid breed was not accepted by Allah Hayam because he did not create them. They became a creation, an experiment by the devils. And so, from the moment they were procreated, They were fallen in his eyes. We have to be aware that yes, in the days of Nach, there were giants. That's how you knew who they were. But they also had a nature that was inherently wicked. And that's how you know them today. We may not see the number of giants as in the days of Noah, but we have giants in a whole different way. They've taken on the high positions, making them giants, political giants, financial giants, scientific giants, because they're controlling the world. They're controlling everything that we do in this world. That makes them a giant or giants. Once we seal in our minds that we're dealing with another bloodline, then when you see the evils that are being committed, the abominations being committed, then you will understand why Allah Hayam said from the very beginning not to mingle with them, not to mix with them, not to associate with them, not even affiliate with them. Don't be friends with them. He told that to Sawath and his children. Do not go down the mountain. Have nothing to do with Cain, who was his brother, Cain. We're talking about Seth and Cain. Don't have anything to do with them because they were fallen. And it's the same thing Allah Hayam spoke to our forefathers when he brought them out of Goshen. And he said, do not mingle with the nations around you, because he already knew that many of them were fallen, were of the Nephilim bloodline. And that's why when he sent our forefathers out to war, some of them, many of them, he said, destroy them utterly, even their possessions. Take nothing, because it is all accursed. And then there were others that were wicked, but they were not contaminated with the Nephilim bloodline. And he said, you can take of their possessions. You can even take the maidens that have never had a husband, never been with a man. You can take them. But everything else you destroy. There was a reason. You got to listen. You need Ruach HaKadosh to help you to find a reason why Allah Hayam said these things, and why he did these things, and why he asked our forefathers to war against these creatures, and why he himself went ahead of them to destroy these people. We have to wake up and pay attention. Don't let life consume you to a point where you are completely oblivious to what's going on. And that when things start to happen, then you start to become fearful, because the two things that these people operate on, fear-mongering and deception. Well, lies too, if you want to include that. This is how they operate. And that's why I'm doing these studies, so at least a handful of people can wake up to the reality about what is actually going on in this world today. Why you have conflicts, and you have people funding both sides of the conflict, of the conflicts, call them wars or rumors of wars, what have you. All right? Then you have the media and the social media all spreading propaganda. to make you think that this thing is like a snowball, a giant snowball about to explode, when in fact it is not. It's as small as a pinhead, if that small. Yes, things are going on, but not to the degree in which the media, social media, and influencers and what have you are reporting to you. And that's why we need to understand exactly what is really going on. All right? So this is part 2, as in the days of Nach, who is Noah, and this is the conclusion of part 1. All right? And we started out in part 1 looking at 6 lists of items which we're going to go and look at in detail. All right? We are concluding, as in the days of Nach, to understand the message that Hamashiach left for us in his warning about the end of times and the time of his return in the clouds to regather the righteous remnant of the southern kingdom. We will continue on with the list of evil deeds that these fallen angels and their children, the Nephilim, were doing that corrupted the earth, mankind, the beasts, the fowls, and even the fish in the sea. Everything they touched, they corrupted. That's why Allah Hayam had to send the flood. He had to send the flood to flush this earth of this wickedness. And it wasn't only about them committing abominable acts against his creatures, but it's also the fact that they had technology in those days. That's why they were able to splice and dice and mix and match the genetic material and create their own monsters, their own children, because they mixed it with their own genetic material. And this fallen race was so advanced that Allah Hayam said, you know what, I just need to shut them down completely. Shut them down. And he sent the flood to destroy their works and to cleanse the earth. It wasn't time, but now, today, it is the time. Now is the time. And this technology that you see today is nothing new. I told you that before. This is nothing new. All right. These are the same evil deeds being done by the Nephilim offspring that are currently running this world. So the bloodline that is in this world right now, running this world, sitting in high places in governments and what have you, in alphabet agencies, they are of this Nephilim bloodline. Some people call them reptilians, what have you. That's who they are. They are a fallen race. They are in the governments and judicial systems making sure that these evil deeds are legalized. And that's why you see them passing laws that you wouldn't have seen being passed 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and beyond that. Why? Because the people in those days were normal people. So what have been happening over a course of generation after generation, they have been replacing people in powerful positions with their bloodline. All right. Because they have to be able to pass the laws to be able to carry out their agendas. And there's nothing that you and I can do to stop them. The only person that can stop what is happening today is the Most High. And He will bring an ending to their evil deeds. But He's going to allow them to carry out their plans and agendas and narratives because He's using them to sift us. We got to choose a side. We got to choose whom we will serve, who we will believe. Are we going to believe them, or are we going to believe him? Are we going to become fearful like some people in 2020, 21, 22, 2022 that when I took the jab? Are we going to become that fearful that we're going to believe the narrative and ignore what the Most High has spoken to us, even through his own Son? He already warned us that these days were coming. So it should be of no surprise to us when they're actually happening in our time. Because things have been escalating now for quite some time. So it should not be a surprise if you were awakened, if you are aware or being made aware. But if you're not being made aware, yes, it will come as a surprise, and even to the point where you will deny that these things are actually taking place. Oh, it's nothing. We always have earthquakes. We always had storms and tornadoes and stuff like that. Yes, we always had them, but not to this degree. Not to this escalated degree. But people will make excuses and live in denial, like an ostrich that sticks its head in the sand to pretend that nothing isn't really happening because they love this world and they love the things in this world. All right, so let us recap or reflect on all the evils that corrupted the earth in the days of Nach. So we looked at this in part 1. Now we're going to go into it in detail in this section, in this study. Number 1, hybridization of mankind, animals, birds, and fish. And that hybridization of mankind produced what we call giants or Nephilim. The bloodline became corrupted. And we know that the flood destroyed the greater majority of these Nephilim, the offspring of the angels and the fallen angels and the daughters of men. But some escaped, a few escaped. All right, a few escaped through a portal. Saw that in part 1. And then the hybridization of animals, birds, and fish, and they created what we call the dinosaurs. All of them, the flying one, the ones in the water, and the ones on the land. All of them. They used some of their genetic material. That's why they were gigantic. Number 2, the mixing of species through experimentation, which is also hybridization. So that's how they were able to develop these creatures called dinosaurs, through the mixing of species and also through intercourse. That's how they mixed them, because some of them were grotesque. And these Nephilim were grotesque. They had 2 rows of teeth and skulls that, oh my, like seriously. 6 fingers on each hand, 6 toes. All right. Number 3, intercourse with angels, animals, birds, and fish, and same genders. So this is the abomination. Intercourse of itself is not an abomination, it's who you do it with. And then it becomes a defilement when you do it when you're not supposed to do it, and with who you do it with, if it's not your husband or your wife. And I said when, of course, and how. Because there are parameters even around intercourse. There are certain things he created us to do. In fact, there's only one way to have intercourse. All these other ways that people have seen and heard and they're experimenting with are not from him. All right. So, intercourse, it is who you do it with, when you do it, and how you do it that determines whether or not you've been defiled or whether you've done it within the perimeters that Allah Hayam has given to us. And He gave us perimeters to keep us in holiness and in righteousness. But when you step out of those perimeters to do things the way how the heathens are doing it, the pagan rituals that they carry out in doing these things, when they do these things, then when you are with your spouse committing this defilement in your own bed, you're actually defiling your marriage before the eyes of Allah Hayam. There's only one way to do it. And you know what I'm talking about. I don't need to spell it out. All these other extra things that people love to do, He did not create that. Those are all the pagan ritual or orgies that they commit as rituals, as part of their rituals to their devils, to their demon gods. And then you take that defilement and bring it into your bridal chamber. And then you wonder why you're having problems in your marriage. This is what brings problems in your home, in your marriage, in your life. When you defile yourselves, going about doing things that the pagans, the heathens are doing. He said, keep your ways holy, always unto Him, even in your bridal chamber. Number 4, destruction of mankind in wars. The making of weapons and shields to prolong wars and destruction and the destruction of mankind. And it's so weird that you got the same people that funding both sides of the war, of any war, and they've been doing it for generations now, are the same people that supply the weapons and the money in order for wars to be carried out. I heard only this morning about the US threatening to cut off Israel and not sending them any more any more weapons. And I'm thinking, seriously, like I I I can't wrap my brain around it. In order for a war to take place, these people have to have weapons. And when you give them weapons, now they can fight wars against each other. And are you understanding exactly what I'm saying? Why would the US give Israel weapons? And then you have another country give their enemies weapons. And that's how both sides have the power, the destructive power to kill innocent lives in these countries. Not just them. It was happening in the bear country. You know who I'm talking about? When it went against the crane country. They were giving them funds, they were giving them artillery, they were giving them weapons, all kinds of stuff. Tanks, you name it. To fight against one another. because the bloodline on this earth, they have the money and they also have the technology and they also have the scientific experiments and whatever else that goes along with it, all at their disposal, because it's all their wicked deeds, wicked stuff anyway. And all they do is delegate who gets what, when, and why. And then they tell them when to use it. If you really understood or understand what is really going on behind the scenes, then you wouldn't even pay attention to when they start to utter threats against one another. Even if bullets were flying, you wouldn't even be bothered by it. You know why? Because you know you're safe. And a lot of the things that are coming from these people's mouths is just a lot of fear mongering. And then the foolish people are out there talking about World War III. I already told you there's not going to be any World War III. There are two major wars that are coming. And that's the war when, with the, actually more than three, more than two, sorry. It will be more like three wars, because it will be the war against the Northern Kingdom against the New World Order. That's going to be a major war. Oh yeah. And then there's going to be the next major war that's even going to be greater than that, will be the same beast empire, number 8, that's going to come against Hamashiach and his saints when he comes back to the earth to rule as king. And then the final major war on this earth isn't even much of a war. It's the war of Gog and Magog. Only 3. All these other little scrimmages that you're hearing about, these conflicts, are there to promote fear mongering, to cause you to cry out to them, to tell you what to do, because you're so afraid. Number 5, cannibalism, the eating and drinking of each other. And the Nephilim were eating mankind because they have insatiable appetites for violence, for food, for everything that you see, that your flesh desires. They have an extraordinary, insatiable appetite for everything. All right? Whereas when you and I eat a meal and we become satisfied, we stop eating, not then. They just keep going. So then they had to turn to their own kind to kill them and then eat them. Eat them raw. Drink the blood and everything. Now, I kind of jumped in and mixed in today with what was happening in the days of Nach. That's okay. Because you know that they were making weapons against each other. Because they're fallen angels, which were their fathers, were teaching them how to wage war, how to make weapons, and to kill one another. All of that was happening back in those days. Cannibalism, number 5. The eating, I think I read that already, sorry. But yes, and that's going to be, that is a hot topic today. A hot topic. Cannibalism. that has never left the earth. But because normal people were living on the earth for a good few generations, these people used to do it, well, their offspring would do it in the dark, do it in secret. Now it's come out, and now it is right in front of our faces. And what are you going to do about it? A lot of people, because they're dumbed down sheeple, they're gonna like, well, I would still kind of be curious to see what it tastes like. Well, if my idol is doing it, I can try it. You never know, I might like it. Dumbed down sheeple. It used to be not even a thought in our minds. The thought of drinking another person's blood or eating another person's flesh. That wasn't even a thought in our minds. And even if we saw it in a movie, we would want to like hurl, literally. It's not something that would ever plant an idea in our brain or even in our hearts. But today, it is so out there right now. And the way how people have this generation is very easily influenced. Very, very, very easily influenced. They can't think for themselves. They can't find like or be think logically about what could actually happen if I do this thing. And I'll give you a perfect example. There was a time not too long ago where they were doing challenges on social media. Don't hear too much about them now. But a lot of these challenges, they were Nephilim experimentation on the human psyche to see how dumbed down we are to carry out their next agenda. Are they ripe enough yet in stupidity to carry out this next agenda? Let's test the waters. Let's do the tide challenge. Let's do the milk crate challenge. Let's do this challenge and see how many people get on board. And how many people will watch time after time after time. They were doing these challenges to test to see how stupid we had become. And unfortunately, it proved that they were right. We had gotten to a point of so dumbed down and so stupid that when the next thing that they rolled out was that fake disease. I kid you not. That's why you don't hear too much about challenges anymore. Unbelievable. The beautifying of oneself to entice and seduce. This beautification was not limited to females, but males for males. And this is what they were doing back in those days. And this is what the Nephilim bloodline loves. I remember back in the 80s, but you were stupid. I was stupid at one point in time too, right? We were all suckered in by our favorite entertainer, whether he's a basketball player or a singer or what have you. We want to dress like them. We want to, look like them, talk like them, you know. And that's why in the 80s was the height of androgynous males. The men were coming out looking both male and female because they were introducing an idea that you could be both male and female in one body. So they pretty up the men and made the women look masculine, padded shoulders, and wearing pantsuits and having power positions in jobs, in their jobs and stuff, going after careers and what have you. All right. There was an inversion in the society. The men became soft and the women became hard. The men suddenly had this feminine energy and the women exuding masculine energy. And you know why that was? Because they were all inverts. Because a real man, could never exude feminine energy. Only a woman can exude feminine energy, and a man will exude masculine energy. Even if you put a dress on a alpha male, a real man, he'd be like a mannish woman, right? A mannish looking woman, I should say. Still mannish. The way how he's walking, even the way how he's talking, posture, everything, masculine, but wearing a dress. I'm not suggesting that, but I'm just saying a real man will exude masculine energy. A real woman will exude feminine energy. When you have a man that is acting soft and have this feminine or effeminate energy, that's not a man. It's a woman that has been changed. And the same thing with the women, sorry. Walking around all buff. And because they're in sports, that gives them the excuse to be buffed. And so buff, they look so masculine. And not only do they look masculine, but they exude masculine energy. There's just like those two tennis players that were sisters, but they're really brothers. They're brothers. They're not sisters. Anyways, let's go into detail now in number 1 and 2, the hybridization. And this is the blending of the DNA. In Nach's time, there were the Nephilim, the hybrids between the daughters of men and the fallen angels. So this was the first blending of the genetic material. And this was an abomination before the eyes of Allah. Although the flood came to destroy the species and subspecies, and the subspecies will be what they created, because it was not possible for these Nephilim giants to mate with human women because of their size. So what they did is they created their own offspring by the mixing of genetic material and through intercourse with what they made, the creatures that they made. So off the face of this earth. So it's a subspecies and dinosaurs off the face of this earth, because that's what Allah did. He sent the flood to destroy them. And their spirits still roam the earth because they're hybrids. And that's what we call evil spirits, unclean spirits, familiar spirits. These are the Nephilim spirits that roam the earth, that are looking for host bodies to possess. Even to this day, they're looking for host bodies to possess. And it doesn't even have to be a physical body. It could be a thing. These creatures, if they have a job to do, they will possess, for example, a wardrobe. And I remember a story a long time ago when I was a child. I'm not even going to say it, but there was an issue with a wardrobe that had demonic spirits in it, and it had to be destroyed. I know of people that were given gifts like a wall painting, and suddenly their home became there was turmoil in their home until they removed the painting, and then everything went back to normal. There's different little things like that. These creatures can possess things as well. So that's why it's very important that you know what you're buying, where you're getting it from. All right? Just be careful. And if you buy something and suddenly your home feels the atmosphere has changed, think about what came into the home. The last thing that came into the home before the change occurred. And it will be that thing. Get rid of it. Don't even give it away. Burn it. Destroy it. So they roam the earth because they're hybrids. Plus, these giants returned after the flood. So some of these giants, like I said, they went through a portal and waited out the flood that was on the earth, and then they returned after the flood. They had enough power because they were the first generation Nephilim. And these particular ones had a certain amount of power, angelic power, that allowed them to do this thing. And Allahayam permitted them because he's going to use them. Look at how he's using them today to sift the world, to sift us, even Yashra'al. One school of thought is that the earlier Nephilim were more powerful than the later born Nephilim, and this we know due to their shrinking stature with each generation of births. Their stature were in the beginning 4,500 feet tall, but by the time the flood came, they were 15 feet tall. So the first generation, 4,500 feet tall, and then it shrunk all the way down to 15 feet tall. These creatures lived a long time. Therefore, some of the first generation of the Nephilim, the most powerful besides their fallen angel fathers, would have found a way to escape the earth through portals. Or it just be one portal too. But they're portals on the earth. Don't think that this is a sci-fi idea. They introduce portals to us through television, through sci-fi movies and what have you, to make us think that this is just made up stuff. They know better than us that it's not made up. That's why they have their giant telescope sitting on a mountain in Arizona called Lucifer. All right? There are portals on this earth. There are portals above the dome, in the dome as well. So there are portals on the earth itself, and then there are portals in the dome. That's where the sun, the moon, and the stars enter and exit our dimension. This is how Hamashiach is going to enter into our dimension. He lives in eternity. We live under the dome in time. So he enters into our dimension through a portal. Angels come into our dimension through portals. The same watchers that became the fallen angels, are part of the fallen angels, entered into our dimension through Mount Hermon, which was a portal. That was a portal. And it still is a portal. All right? When Yaakov, our forefather, went to sleep, he saw the angels going up and down a ladder, reaching all the way up. to the heavens. That's a portal. They were coming in to our realm and going back up into their realm. There are portals in it in this world. So don't think that it's not possible. It is also a theory that one or maybe two of the wives of Nach's sons, not Sham's wife, could have already been contaminated by the Nephilim bloodline, because Sham and his wife, their offspring, we have the common thread that passes from Adam and Hawa to Sawaf, and then we have, of course, other forefathers like Hanawak and Nach, and then we have Sham, and then from Sham we have Eber, and so on and so forth. And then from there we have Abraham, Yatzachak, and Yaokab. So that's why Sham's wife could not have been contaminated, but they said there was a possibility that maybe Japheth's or Japheth's wife or Ham's wife were contaminated by Nephilim bloodline. But this theory does not make sense, as Nach and his forefathers dwelt on a special mountain. They were told never to come down the mountain, so how would they have been contaminated? Once they go down the mountain, they can't go back up. They can't go back up. And those in the valley, Cain's children and the fallen, could not go up the mountain. It was a holy mountain. So that theory does not make any sense either. That one of the wives were contaminated, one or two were contaminated, does not make any sense. Al-Hayam did not save anything, beast, bird, or man, that had any kind of contamination of the Nephilim bloodline. He did not save anything. Any of those creatures, destroyed them all. So the portals is the only solution, the only way for some of those giants to escape and to return. They were ordered never to come down from the mountain. This is Nach and his family and all the forefathers. They were told never to come down the mountain, and the wives of his sons were the daughters of his people, not Cain's children, or the Nephilim. So that's another thing too. The wives of his sons were the daughters of his own people. All of them that dwelt on top of the mountain. They did not choose wives from amongst Cain's people, only from amongst their own kind. Just like Yaokab chose a wife from amongst his mother's family. You understand? Masha allowed us to know that although the flood cleansed the earth, to reset it with Nox's children being the progenitors of the races that the giants returned after the flood. The giants had to have come from somewhere, and portals seem the most plausible. The Nephilim bloodline is so watered down that it is impossible to know who has this bloodline today. All right, by looking at them. And they did this intentionally just so they can blend in with the populations all around the world. So, but however, we can identify them from us, the pure bloodline. How? By their deeds. Not everyone that is wicked have Nephilim bloodline. They're just influenced by the wickedness that these people are doing. They're just sheeple. They're just stupid. They're foolish. Whatever you want to call them. They're following their idol or idols to do what they're doing. Doesn't mean that they have the bloodline, just means that they are either possessed by evil spirits to do the things that they're doing, or they're just influenced. We all were influenced by evil spirits when we were living in sin, before we were awakened. We all were. Every single one of us were under was under the thumb of the devil, committing evil deeds. Did not mean that we were possessed, did not mean that we had Nephilim bloodline. All right, so let's get that straightened out. Now, you can tell when someone steps out of just being influenced to being possessed by the abominable things that they do. When you see them go that extra mile to be evil, like eating human flesh and drinking human blood, a normal person, no matter how much of a sinner they are, would not go to that degree unless they become possessed now by evil spirits. When you become possessed by evil spirits, you now have an appetite for evil like never before. And you start to commit abominations and do things that a normal person, a normal sinner would not do. All right? And some of these abominations, bestiality, having intercourse with your same gender, and changing yourself to be like the opposite gender. Now you're becoming possessed. All right? There's a difference between influenced because you were ignorant and you were under the influence of the devil or devils. You didn't know any better until the Most High pulled you back and said, you can go so far and no further. I'm reeling you in, son, daughter. I'm reeling you in. You're not getting away from me. And this is as far as you will go. I allow you to smoke cigarettes, but you will never do drugs. I allow you to have a beer and drink some wine, but you will never become a drunk. Just go so far and no further, because I'm reeling you in. And once he starts to reel us in, then those desires start to leave us and we become repulsed by those things that we once did. They will go one step further, another step further, and then they're completely engulfed in darkness, committing abominable acts. Now they're possessed. Another way, in fact, I'm getting ahead of myself as usual, but we'll see that coming on in the next verse or, well, paragraph or so. But there's another way in which you become an abomination before the Most High. Now, someone who's possessed by an evil spirit can be redeemed. Yes, they can be. It's in the Bible. Hamashiach himself cast out demons out of people and restored them. And there's salvation for that person too. Salvation is available to all of us as long as we do not corrupt the bloodline. All right? As long as we don't corrupt the bloodline. Okay. We also know that today there are incredibly tall people stepping out from the woodwork and into the public and are readily accepted because of the sport basketball. If you have noticed, the basketballers, both males and females, are readily accepted for their incredible size and heights. And these modern age giants are amazingly well proportioned and agile. So that's why they introduced the sport, so that they can introduce their giants. And you would think nothing of it. Oh, they're just basketballers. That's expected. I remember back in the 60s, 70s, when, well, it wouldn't be the 60s, it would be the 70s, when I used to watch basketball. And the men, yeah, they were probably like 6 feet, the tallest. You might have one that might be 6'2". But they were average height males. And then all of a sudden, you might find one or two that is a little taller than most. And now today, you have a 6-footer is the shortest in the group. I don't watch basketball. I don't watch any sports. But when I see a clip here or there, I'm like, wow, these guys are tall. And the women too. Modern day giants to get you to accept and love giants. Remember back in the day they had one that they used to call Andre the Giant, became a beloved actor. Oh yeah, they make you love them so that you can accept them. It is also because of this form of entertainment, speaking of basketball, that has desensitized many to accept modern day giants that walk amongst us. Oops, sorry about that. Hit my microphone. But hybridization goes beyond Nephilim bloodline these days, as their technology, artificial intelligence, is now being used to hybridize mankind. So that was the next topic, next point that I was going to make. You born in to a Nephilim bloodline family, or you become Nephilim because of artificial intelligence, because they've changed your genome. The toxin, aka the jibby jab for the C-19 hoax that the world was introduced to in 2021 and onward, was for 4 specific reasons. All right. And the toxin, I'm talking about that mark of the beast. It is the mark of the beast. Some people say, oh, no, that's not the mark of the beast, blah, 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 what have you. Because they went and took it. And they took it because their pastors, their leaders, and what have you told them to take it. But you took it, and inside those vials have Nephilim genetic material along with nanotechnology to change your genome forever. Number 1, to kill off as many people quickly and blame the C-19 and or the change of the climate. When people started dropping down like flies. I heard over 70 million people have died because of these jibby jabs. 70 million worldwide. But they claim, they blame the change of the climate, people taking cold showers and what have you. You got babies dying from heart attacks or strokes. Children that just came out of the womb. cancers of all kinds, because they put all kinds of nastiness. It was like a nasty bomb, a nasty vial of, let me just rephrase that, a vial that was filled with every nasty disease that you can think of. HIV, cancers of all kinds, Nephilim, uh, genetic material, fetal material, talking about dead babies material, all kinds of garbage to put in that thing to poison, not only poison and try to destroy, but what it could not destroy, they changed. And that's when we get to number 2, to kill slowly so as to not alarm the public at the dramatic number of deaths after the snake bite. They wanted people to die fast, and they also wanted them to die slowly. So a lot of people are suffering. People that had recovered from cancer, their cancer came back at stage 4. There are 4 stages to cancer: stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and stage 4 is the final stage. And some of these people that were in remission came back at stage 4. They jumped the first 3 stages, and in a couple of weeks they're dead. I know of people. All right, and then the people were dying even slower than that, come down with all kind of ailments. Until finally your body completely shuts down. Now, number 3, to trigger the Nephilim genetic material, because there are people born on the earth that have Nephilim bloodline, and they just don't know it because of mixing amongst them actually them mixing amongst us, because they look like us. That's why the Father told us, do not marry the other nations. They're predominantly amongst the other nations. But some of our foolish brethren have married the other nations. He says, stay within your own kind. So when this genetic material is triggered, you see now we have the black-eyed children. And even the adults now are being reported today with black eyes. They're converted. I've been watching this phenomenon even before the jibby jab came out. These black-eyed children have been reported coming to your doors, asking to come in. They're demons. All right? They're Nephilim. But they're children, the size of children. And the many people that reported them, listen, I'm not a sucker for every story, but this is real. This is real. And you know how I knew it was real? Because Ruach HaKodesh told me it is real. And then he confirmed it to me after people had taken the jibby jab, and the ones that didn't die off or became sterile because they had Nephilim bloodline, they were able to produce children. And the children that were born, they were born with black eyes. I saw them with my own 2 eyes. freaking out the nurses in the hospitals. And a lot of them, if not all of them, are super strong from birth. From birth, they can lift their heads up and look around. Usually, a newborn baby, all it wants to do is sleep. But not these Nephilim children. They're looking around, saying, okay, you can see them planning and plotting against their own parents. And their motor skills increase tremendously. By the time they're 3 months old, some of them are crawling around on the ground. That's never heard of. By 6 months, they're running around, climbing here, climbing there. And the parents are so proud. Oh, my baby is so strong. My baby is so advanced with their motor skills. But they're dumb as a doorpost. Can't figure 1 plus 1. But that's all right. Because Nephilim spirits, they're looking for host bodies. They don't want you to be smart. They become the smarts in your body, in their bodies. So that's why they're triggering the bloodline in the parents to procreate, to make host bodies for their evil spirits to possess. And even with the baby farms and the baby pods that they have, all that, because Allah Hayam will not accept them. So they're going to be born soulless. And that will give the unclean spirits a home. And these will become the armies that will come against the Most High and His people, even the Gentiles. We see that adults today are reported having black eyes. I heard this story. In fact, several stories. It's being reported too in the news. People that were normal today, tomorrow, you see them, they have black eyes. Completely all the white of their eyes have been blacked out. They didn't go and get a tattoo. No. They didn't get their eyeballs tattooed like some crazy people would do. No. These people, their eyes just become black. And all this is desensitizing because the grays, the alien grays, have been reported to have black eyes. There ain't no such thing as alien grays. There ain't no aliens. They're demons. All right? Demons. Nephilim. Subspecies. All right. Number 4, to hybridize mankind. This is another way for the Satans to build their armies, as they know that these hybrids will be rejected by Allah Hayam, and they are perfect hosts for the Nephilim spirits that are roaming the earth. This is what the fallen angels, the Satans, and the Nephilim are doing today. They are creating host bodies, which are hybrids, for their evil spirits that are roaming the earth to take possession of. They know that they are rejected by Allah Hayam, but they would totally accept them. They're looking for bodies. Now, this other way of hybridization through artificial intelligence comes in the highly deceptive form of what they refer to as advanced technology. They want to put that stuff in people, talking about nanotechnology, to tell them, well, you don't need to go and get an x-ray done, you don't need to get this done, or it could deliver your medication straight to the site, what have you. They're putting this stuff in people in the name of advanced technology to make you think that It will improve your quality of life. But what they're doing is changing you, transforming you. Today, the offspring of the Nephilim is using this method to hybridize man once again, which also contains their D-N-A-. We also know this is the mark of the beast. And Al-Hayam Yahweh is very clear about anyone who takes this abomination. You go and you take anything that these people tell you to take, and you put it in your body, and you think that you can pray it out, and you can fast it out, or you can walk barefooted on the ground, and the earth is going to pull the poisons out, or you can go soak yourself in an Epsom salts bath to pull the poisons out. Think again. You're going in on a genetic level. All right? To transform what Allah had created originally. And once they change it, it cannot be undone. You cannot unbake a loaf of bread. You cannot separate the ingredients out of a loaf of bread that's been baked. Even if it's a batter or a dough, actually. You got a dough that you want to bake into a bread. You think you can take the flour out? You think you can take the milk or the water out of it? It's done. Cannot be undone. And crying about it isn't going to help you. He isn't going to do anything. He's not going to hear you. Anyone that took this jab, his ears are turned off from their cries. You should have repented before you did it. Right? You should have prayed before you did it. And repented that you even thought about it. And now that you've done it, and you realize what it really is, you're running scared. You ain't seen nothing yet. Lake of fire is waiting for all the ones that have taken it, because they submitted to the beast instead of submitting to Allah. Revelation chapter 14 verse 9. The third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of Allah, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And I've gone through this in the Revelation series. This mark in the forehead or in the hand is both physical and spiritual. It's about your thoughts and your deeds based on the fact that you took on the Nephilim bloodline. No, you can't think like a normal person, and you can't do the normal things that normal people would do. You become an abomination, and you do abominable things, and you think abominable things. You become hateful, even against Allah. Hybridization of man is an abomination to Allah Yahweh, because it changes the originality of his creation into something hideous before his eyes. You change yourself from the inward parts to something else. You become an abomination. Think about all those people that went and changed who they were born as. You were born a female, you decide, I'm a male trapped in a female's body, so I need to get out. So you go and you do the chemical thing, and then you go and you do the operations. And the younger you do it, the worse it is for you. Because once you shut certain chemical reactions off in your bodies, before you develop fully as an adult, either adult male or adult female, ain't coming back. And that's why they're targeting babies, young children in elementary school. They're targeting them, turning them into its. Neither male nor female. You're an it now. You can't develop any further. Even if you stop taking the chemicals that they give you, you can't go back. So now you become an abomination before the Most High because you try to change who you were born as. How do you think? Do you think that these people will repent? You know what they end up doing? Offing themselves. Why? Because the Most High cut them off. Completely cut them off. Read the Bible again and see who could come before him. You think a man with a broken nose can go before him? You think a man that has any kind of flaw on his body can go before him? No. Even if he was of the priesthood and he was born with a deformity or something, he could not go before the Most High. You had to be perfect. So imagine people today that go and purposely change who they were born as. You think they can come before the Most High? Think again. And they're not going to repent because repentance is withheld from them. They've been cut off. I'm talking about both our people and the Gentiles. Cut off. You're now a hybrid, sporting two types of genetic materials in your body, not the one that you were born with. Yes, when we in our bodies, males and females, we have the XX and XY chromosomes and what have you. So be it. Yes, that's how he created us, and that's how we have both. When we have children, it could either be a boy or a girl, depending on what chromosome was dominant. All right, which chromosomes were dominant. That's his work, his handiwork. But when you try to transform his handiwork, you're not getting off that easily. And that's why they all go down that dark path. All of his creations were seen as good in his eyes as long as their D-N-A- was not tampered with. It is for this reason why he sent the flood in Nach's time, because all of his creations were changed, with the exception of Nach and his family and a remnant of animals that he reserved and preserved specially for the ark. Number 2. Another abomination that Allah has warned us about is having intercourse with creatures or with the same gender as oneself. Why would you lower yourself to go and lie with an animal, lie with your pet? People marrying their pets. Having a actual wedding ceremony. And their pets are walking down the aisle with them. Have you ever seen or heard anything so ridiculous? And there are people there too. People come and watch and join in dressed up, dressed to the hilt, to enjoy the wedding between a man and his dog. Unbelievable. And you got a priest there carrying out the vows too. Leviticus chapter 20, verse 12. If a man also lie with his daughter-in-law, both of them shall surely be put to death. They have wrought confusion. We're going to look at that word confusion in the next scripture. Their blood shall be upon them. So normally, when someone kills another person, that blood, the blood that they have shed, goes up, it cries against them. But when it is punishment for any abominations that are transgression against Allah Hayam's commandments, the blood remains on them, the criminals. That's why he said their blood shall be upon them themselves. If a man also lie with mankind as he lay with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them. So even way back here in Leviticus, way back when our forefathers were in the wilderness, Allah Hayam was already warning our people. Don't lie with a man. A man should not lie with a man. A woman should not lie with a woman. But today, it is the norm. All right. They've committed an abomination. He said, both of them, they shall surely be put to death. That's how he erased this kind of abomination. Their blood shall be upon them because it's justified. Verse 14, and if a man take a wife and her mother, it is wickedness. They shall be burnt with fire, both he and they, that there be no wickedness among you. So this is the reason why Allah Hayam was telling our people back in the wilderness not to do these things. These abominations were being committed around amongst the nations around them. And they would have witnessed some of these things or heard of these things. And I've done part 4 already, as in the days of Lawat. And one thing that you have to understand about Nephilim bloodline, they are very influential, very persuasive. They can, it's almost like they draw you by a spell to do what they're doing. All the abominable acts that they do, you watch, and then all of a sudden, you want to do it too. And that's why Allah Hayam had such harsh judgments against these kinds of acts, to prevent the people from even wanting to do them. Don't even think about it. Verse 15, and if a man lie with a beast, he shall surely be put to death, and you shall slay the beast. They're both abominable now before him. And if a woman approach unto any beast and lie down thereto, meaning have intercourse with it, you shall kill the woman and the beast. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them. Their blood shall be justified, or their deaths be justified. The book of Leviticus, which is the book of the laws, outline how Allah Hayam Yahweh wants us to live, then and surely now. So the same things that he outlined here, and there is a lot more too. A lot more. And the things that you see outlined here, we see happening today. No joke. We'll get to it. He had clearly set boundaries to prevent us from living in sin, to preserve us as a people pure-blooded, and to be holy and righteous before him. Many today may think that his punishment of death may have been too harsh in our forefathers' time, but what he was doing was eradicating the wickedness from amongst the people, which would have spreaded like a cancer to others. Also at the same time, Allah Hayam Yahweh was setting his consequences and the punishments for anyone who breached his laws as a way to hinder and prevent others from committing these abominations. There were more laws stated in chapter 20 of Leviticus that Allah warned Yashua concerning adultery with another man's wife, a man who lies with his father's wife. He has uncovered his father's nakedness. All these were punishable. A man who lies with his daughter-in-law, a man who lies with his sister, either his father's daughter or mother's daughter, a man who lies with his mother's sister or his father's sister, which is near kin, or his uncle's wife or his brother's wife, were all considered unclean and wickedness. And most of these crimes were dealt with death, or they were cut off from the congregation. I know you might think, well, Yaakov married two sisters. Well, this was before the law. 1, 2, he was tricked into marrying Leah or La'a. He intended to marry Rahab. And another point, back then, the bloodline was not as impure, and there were fewer of his relatives, of people that he could marry. So he had to marry relatives. But the multitudes that came out of Goshen were enough where they didn't have to lie with next of kin. They stay within their own tribes, but they didn't have to lie with next of kin. Not anymore. They did that from the beginning. From the beginning, Adam and Hawa, they gave birth to a daughter, a son and a daughter, which is Kayan and his sister, and then Abal and his sister. And they had to marry their own sisters to have children by then. The bloodline was pure back in those days. And if you notice, as the generations progressed, then they were marrying their father's sister. Right? And then they progress and progress until now. Allah saying, don't even go with your next of kin anymore. You don't need it. You don't have to. Because now, at this point of time, and because of sin, the bloodline is no longer pure. And because of sin, I've said this before, now there are certain impurities that have crept in, infirmities. And when two relatives with certain infirmities in their bloodline come together, then the child will be born either handicapped or what have you. Blind, deaf, what have you. Deformed. All right? So it's better to marry someone who is not a direct relative. And this is why Allah did this at this point of time in the wilderness. These laws were given, I read that already. Okay, let's read it again. These laws were given to us to preserve the health of our lineage, as with each passing generation, our D-N-A- becomes weaker if we procreate with our relatives. In the beginning, this was not so, as the genetic material was pure. And I heard a story about this particular people in the UK. They marry only their cousins. And now they're producing children that are deaf, blind, and they have the mental state of a 2-year-old. They never progress beyond 2-year-old, meaning emotionally mature. let me start over. Their emotional maturity is that of a 2-year-old. They don't get any older. I mean, they age in their bodies, but their thinking, their reasoning is that of a 2-year-old. Some of them can't speak. They're being born deformed. And they were warned, stop interbreeding. Step out. But they're like, this is something that we've been doing for generations. Well, that's the reason why you're giving birth to these children with all these problems. After all these generations, and you just marrying your cousins, cousins marrying cousins. But they're not of our people, so that's their problem, right? And that's what happens when you live in sin. When you live away from the Most High, when He is not guiding you and teaching you, then your culture and the things that you do for generations become, even though it doesn't make sense, even though it's killing the next generation and deforming them. Oh, no, no, no. We need to keep doing this because it is our heritage. Can't think logically, can't think reasonably. Leviticus chapter 18, verse 22. You shall not lie with mankind as with womankind. It is an abomination. Neither shall you lie with any beast to defile yourself therewith. Neither shall any woman stand before a beast to lie down thereto. It is confusion. And that word confusion is thabal in our language. It means violation of nature or divine order. It is a perversion. That's how Allah Hayam sees it. So when he says confusion, he's not talking about you being confused to do this thing. It means that you are a pervert, basically. Oh, I don't know where did that come from. Anyways, let's read on. Because Yashra'al had been scattered from our land and living in the lands of our captivity, we see that the punishments for these abominations are not being carried out. And not only are they not being carried out, but we're seeing an escalation of these abominations, even amongst our people. We see a dramatic escalation of these abominations that are beginning to threaten the future of certain populations, as procreating is either out of the question or not desired. Oh no, I rather marry my pet. I rather marry a dolphin, marry a tree, marry myself, make a doll, marry that. That's what's happening today. And this is real. This, when I say it's real, meaning it is actually happening. And this is by one, either influence of Nephilim or possession. Because I'm telling you, if you think that you can make a doll and marry the doll, something's wrong upstairs. Something is definitely wrong upstairs. Even to marry yourself. Just one chick that married herself, and then she divorced herself a year later. Unbelievable, right? These people are possessed. They're possessed. They're not normal. And then again, they could be agents of the same Nephilim. They could be the same Nephilim offspring that is just putting it out there. You understand? As a way to promote these abominations. Promote, and not only abominations, but corruption. So it could be both. People are just deluded because they're possessed, or they're just agents carrying out the fallen angels' agendas. You put it out there, people eventually would take heed. I'm like, I should try that. I don't really want a real man. I can go make myself my own man. Just like how they have the bots. They have robots now that you can buy. People get and you can program the robot to be whatever you want it to be. Loving, caring, warm, sweet, what have you. And do the deed as well. Oh yeah, you have male ones and you have the female ones. And they know they have the artificial intelligence now they have where you can have a hologram husband. this this person married a hologram husband. Now, honestly, you so this is the reason why the birth rates are going down in a lot of countries because the generation that is alive today, because they're so suckered into these narratives, they're so dumbed down by these narratives and these agendas that they have no desire to have a regular marriage, mean a man and a woman getting married and having children. They want to do something different because different is what their idols are doing. All right. And so some of them might say, you know what, I still would like to have a baby though, but I don't really want to do it the normal way. So in comes the baby pods. You can rent a pod. You don't need a male, you don't need a male genetic material for this. They can just take your material and create a baby from it. I kid you not. I kid you not. Total confusion, perversion. And this is what is happening today. The birth rates are low. And so they, the devils, have pitched another of their evil plots, the artificial wombs. And so the list of these depraved minds grows and grows. You don't need to, they're telling people you don't need to have a baby. You can grow your own baby in the comfort of your own home without using your body, using our very specialized and sophisticated artificial womb. You can rent one or you can buy one. The choice is yours. And you can watch your baby grow because it's all transparent. Unbelievable. They are, in fact, growing their own army of abominable flesh folks, baby farms. You can call it baby farms as well, that will be possessed by their Nephilim spirits. That's all it is, you know. Dumb down the people, get them not interested in hooking up with one another, right? But still keep a few to go and desire to have a child. And let's introduce this other option, the artificial womb. Or you can have a husband and wife, but they just don't want, the woman just doesn't want to carry a child for 9 months because of whatever, you know, whatever reasons they may give. Oh, the discomfort and the pain and what have you. Well, that's all part of the blessing and the curse. Right? Whichever way you look at it. All right? Whichever way you look at it. But it's a blessing in the end. You will never hear a woman after holding her baby complain about the pain. The pain just disappears because she's so overwhelmed with joy when she sees that baby. You know, the pain just melts away. And just love fills the air. Anyways. Number 3, the destruction through wars. Hamashiach told us that there will be wars and rumors of wars. And actually, let me just say I misnumbered these lists here. This should be number 4, by the way. I misnumbered them. My error. I did it in the first video and I didn't change it even in this one. I forgot about it. So Hamashiach told us that there will be wars and rumors of wars in the last days, and this is what we are seeing more and more today. We're not to fear if we hear of them. That's what he said. Matthew chapter 24, verse 6. And you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in divers places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. These are the birth pangs. These are the seals. The seals represent the birth pangs. So we are in the birth pangs right now because we're hearing of wars and rumors of wars, right? But don't believe everything that you hear because a lot of it is propaganda, fear mongering. I know they talk about the war up in there in Israel. I live here in Egypt, and I can tell you for a fact that all the the way how the media makes it seem like here is a war zone. Listen, if I don't turn on the news, I wouldn't know what's going on. Yes, on occasion you might see something flying overhead, right? But it's not a war zone over here. Yes, there might be a little few things going on over there. I was even in Jordan last year and earlier this year, even closer to the action, and still heard nothing. People live their lives like normal. Yes, there was some protesting and stuff going on, but that's to be expected, right? Because a lot of Palestinians live in Jordan. All right? Okay. Well, it's not as bad as people are making it out to be. Number 5, this should be number 5, cannibalism. This is the eating of the flesh of mankind and the drinking of the blood of mankind, which is an abomination. And I know our favorite actors and actresses and entertainers are normalizing this deed, this abomination, telling you to make a facial out of blood. This other actress and its fiance drinking each other's blood as a way to, um, well, they got engaged, but as part of their engagement ceremony, they drank each other's blood. And then, as I found out later, because I went and I looked deeper into it, they said, "Oh, well, it's more of a ritual." like it made it, that makes it normal, right? What kind of ritual drinks blood? But vampires, and we know vampires are demons, right? They're glorified demons, right? So who really drinks blood? Okay, this is Nephilim. Right off the bat. That's how you know they're Nephilim. The things that they do and the things that they say will lead you to believe and to know that these are not normal people. They are Nephilim. There's another artist by the name of, let me see if I can remember its name. Um, anyways, it's one of those foreign names. But this person is well known in the entertainment industries, actors, what have you, and it's well known. It's a well known not actor, well known artist. But the art that they produce is on a different level altogether. It's all about blood and cannibalism, right? And they portray, themselves with a knife and blood dripping from it, or they got the five-pointed star like carved out on someone's belly or her belly or what have you. This creature, and this creature is a witch, by the way. They are bona fide witches. That's what they are. A lot of them are witches and warlocks because they are the Nephilim bloodline. So this creature, for this gala that they did, they baked a human-sized cake, female, a female looking. It looks real too. But they made this cake, a life-size cake, and you see people gladly cutting into this person's body, sorry, this cake that looks like a body. And when you look at the color of the color of the cake is blood, red. I wouldn't be surprised if human blood isn't in there. And you see all the people sitting around it, like almost like a ceremony. The same kind of rituals that they carry out with real humans. I see them with smiles on their face, like, oh, I can't wait to rip into that arm. Like, seriously, these people. And you, like, famous people go to these things. Actors, actresses, politicians, you name it, they go to these things and they partake. Why? Because they are of the same bloodline. They're Nephilim. Don't fall in love with these people. Have nothing to do with the people of this world. Even if they're super rich and they can show you how, or they tell you, I can show you how to become rich like me, have nothing to do with them. You don't want anything to do with their wealth. Don't take your advice from them. If you want advice, go to Rawat HaKadah. She'll give you all the good advice you need. You need to know how to live. Open up the Bible and read how you ought to be living, even in this fallen world, amongst these fallen people. Everything that you need, Allah Hayam has already provided it so that we can live somewhat righteously before Him. And I said somewhat because sometimes we slip and we slide. And then we get the gist of it, and then we can live righteously and in holiness. Because once you come into the knowledge of what is going on and who these people really are, then you want nothing to do with them. You don't even want to look like them. You don't want to talk like them. You don't want anything that they have. You don't even want to wear their symbols then. Because a lot of them go into cosmetics and jewelry making, and well, not they don't make the jewelry, but they have people making it for them, and clothing lines. And you want to wear their symbols all over your body. And you pay an arm and a leg for it too, literally. Not literally, but figuratively speaking. Right? You want a Louis Vuitton bag that costs thousands of dollars. And that person is a Nephilim. Cause you to fall in love with them. And then they like charge and overcharge for their items. And you want it so bad that you would work and work and work and save up all those thousands of dollars just so you can have that one bag. Don't buy no food. Don't have money for rent, but you want that bag. You must have it. I'm telling you, this is how they have programmed us. That as long as you have certain things, you're now in the club. That's because you love them. And you can't love the Most High and love them too. He said, either you hate the one or love the other. Can't serve two masters. And little by little, they start to erase the moral borders that we had around us. Little by little, they start to corrupt from the inside. You keep watching these people and the way how they live their lives, and you want to live your life the same way too. Rancid. Sleeping around and doing all kinds of wickedness. Okay, Bara'ah Shayath chapter 9 verse 4. But the flesh of the life thereof, which is the blood thereof, shall you not eat. So this is with animal meat. All right? He said don't eat raw meat. And don't eat it undercooked either. If you can see pink in it, it's not fully cooked. You're still eating the blood. He said the blood is the life of the flesh. And that blood was meant for one purpose, to sacrifice to Him for our atonement. Going to see that in another scripture here. So when you eat the blood that was meant for the atonement, that represents our atonement, then you are defiling the blood and yourselves. So, because if you're eating the blood, how are you going to be atoned? So the blood has to be kept in a separate category, untouchable. Just like the fat that you burn, you're not supposed to eat fat either, the fat of the animal. All right, is made as part of the sacrifice. So the blood is in its own separate category, supposed to be held in its own separate category, not to be eaten, and certainly not to be drank. Leviticus chapter 7, verse 26. Moreover, you shall eat no manner of blood, whether it be of fowl or of beast, in any of your dwellings. Leviticus chapter 17, verse 10. And whatsoever man there be of the house of Yashrael, or of the strangers that sojourn among you, that eat any manner of blood, I will even set my face against that soul that eats blood, and will cut him off from among his people. For the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it to you upon the altar to make an atonement for your souls. For it is the blood that makes atonement for the soul. So he's not saying that you're not supposed to eat the blood or the flesh with blood still dripping out of it, because it's meant to be used as an atonement. He's saying all blood is symbolic of the atonement that is made for your sins, for our sins. So you're not supposed to eat any form of blood, period. Okay? Verse 12. Therefore I said unto Habanai, O Yashrael, no soul of you shall eat blood, neither shall any stranger that sojourns among you eat blood. Stranger here, foreigner, Gentile. Okay? Even when they are living amongst us, as long as they're living under our roof, they're not supposed to be eating blood. And I know some of y'all gone and marry, well, not y'all, some of our people, right? Some of our people have gone and married outsiders, foreigners, and they like their steak medium to rare. You slice it and the blood just oozes out. It's just seared on the top and the bottom. And they were, well, he likes it like that or she likes it like that. Who am I to judge? And right there, you're breaking the commandment, breaking the law. Because this person, you and this person, you live together. You may not eat it that way, eat the beef that way or what have you. But the fact that they eat it and you two reside under the same roof, you're breaking the law. That's why he said, do not marry outsiders. Marry your own kind. And don't just marry for the sake of getting married. When you marry someone, they have to be on the same page as you are. You've come into the knowledge of who you are, who Allah Hayam Yahweh is. You want to live in righteousness and holiness. That person has to have the same desires too. And you can't make them want to have those kind of desires. Either they have them or they don't. You can't force a man to do what you want him to do, no more than a man can force a woman can do what he wants her to do. And that's why conflicts come into marriage, because after you get married, then you realize, well, wait a minute. Well, I'm really not in agreement with this anymore, or what have you. But then it's too late. You're already married to the person. That's why it's better to wait. And if you don't get married and you stay in the faith, there will be marriages made later on. You have not missed out on anything. Trust me. You're being preserved. A lot of people want to run into marriages and have children because their friends are doing it. But that's not a reason for you to jump into a marriage. And then you end up being unhappy. And he's unhappy or she's unhappy. And then they start stepping out on one another. And then you got children mixed up in all that garbage. How can you fix that now? And then the children grow up like watching both parents live in this kind of lifestyles. What do you think is going to impress upon that child? Unbelievable. It's better to stay single, folks, especially now, especially today. Stay single. There will be marriages made later on, and you'll be blessed with an awesome spouse. Because the Most High will bless you with an awesome spouse. Why? Because you put Him first in your life. You weren't like all the others running after flesh. You want to get married because you're getting old and this and that, and you just want to, be a part of the crowd. What crowd? To do what? Most of these people aren't even happy in their marriages. All right, let's move on. For the life of all flesh. Okay, verse 13. And whatsoever man there be of Habaniel Yashrael, or the strangers that sojourn among you, who hunt and catch any beast or fowl that may be eaten, he shall even pour out the blood thereof and cover it with dust. So, yes, when you kill an animal for food and you shed the blood on the ground, cover it. You have to cover, respect the blood, cover it. It is the life of all flesh. The blood of it is for the life thereof. And that's why he said blood for blood. Instead of your blood being shed, because we're under this curse due to Adam and Hawa's transgression. And so the blood of animals at that time were spilled because it was an atonement, their blood for our blood. But Hamashiach came and he gave his blood for our blood. So we don't need to do this anymore. Nevertheless, the blood is still the life of all flesh. And you cannot eat blood. All right. Therefore I said unto Habaniel Yashrael, you shall eat the blood of no manner of flesh, for the life of all flesh is in the blood thereof. Whosoever eats it shall be cut off. Jeremiah chapter 19, verse 8. And I will make this city desolate and a hissing. Everyone that passes thereby shall be astonished and hissed because of all the plagues thereof. And I will cause them to eat the flesh of their sons and the flesh of their daughters, and they shall eat every one the flesh of his friend in the siege and straitness, wherewith their enemies and they that seek their lives shall straiten them. And the reason why Yahweh caused our forefathers, when they were living, this would be the southern kingdom, when they were living in our land, and they were under siege, meaning they couldn't get out of the city in order to get food. They had to eat their own babies. And the reason why he did that is because of all their abominable acts that they committed against him. So they committed abominations, and he showed them that there were abominations by causing them to eat their own children. All right. So let's move on to number 6, beautification. To be seductive to the opposite gender and same gender. The Barayam chapter 22 verse 5. That's the book of Deuteronomy chapter 22 verse 5. The woman shall not wear that which pertains unto a man, neither shall a man put on a woman's garment. For all that do so are abomination unto Yahweh Allah Hayak. And I know back in the days of our forefathers, everyone wore a tunic and an overcoat. All right. However, the male tunic was different from the woman's tunic. Same thing with the overcoats. So even back in those days, even though they all wore something that looked like dresses and a robe over it, they had different um, different indicators to allow someone to know it is masculine tunic or a feminine tunic. And he was saying a man should not put on a woman's tunic, and a woman should not put on a man's tunic. It is abomination because the man is dressing up like a woman because he is appealing to other men. And the same thing with the woman. She's appealing to other women because she's dressing up like a man. And I know some people say, well, what about wearing pants? Well, we have masculine looking pants and we have feminine pants. It's just like we have masculine suits and we have feminine suits. All right? You don't want women to dress to look like men or men to dress to look like women. End of story. It's an abomination. We see a tremendous growth in the Rainbow Coalition organization where they have infiltrated every sphere of life on this earth. They are in politics, in education, in religion, in the entertainment industry, and even in the military. That was the part that really, well, not really surprised me, but yeah, it surprised me a little. That back in the day, men in military were men, basically. I'm not saying that there weren't some hidden ones in there, but at least they hid it, right? And there were a few. But today, you should see them now, even crossing over. Male dressing up in female military uniform. Unbelievable. This is not an area where this abomination has not infiltrated, and it was by demonic design. Slowly but surely, the entertainment industries, whether actors, sports, music, and the like industries, have been used to indoctrinate the populations on the earth. These entertainers become idols and influencers, introducing pagan lifestyles that are shamelessly glorifying satanic worship, pagan worship. The way they speak, how they act, how they dress, and how they live their lives are contrary to the word of Allah Hayam. They have changed the definition of marriage, of men, of women, of parenthood, and even children are deeply affected by these changes. They're even changing the definition of children too. Children today have the same voice as an adult. All right. For the first time in history, a child will grow up never understanding the true definition of the only two genders, male and female. These lines have been purposely blurred and in some cases erased, bringing about mass confusion, perversion. The next generation will be lost, their identities removed and replaced with pagan indoctrination. This lost generation will seek to be what they are not, and frustration will set in once they have not achieved what they have been lied to achieve. They will beautify themselves, not just with cosmetics, but with clothing that is either androgynous or intended for the other gender. They will even go as far as to surgically change who they are, and chemically as well. We also see a drastic rise of cosmetic surgeries to enhance and beautify to be like demons. They're putting in all these different lumps and bumps and changing their eye color and cutting off their nose and splitting their tongue, splitting their lips, cutting off their ears. I'm telling you, like this is not beautification. All right, and I should have taken out that word to beautify, but there's some that they try to beautify themselves by putting implants, right? Increasing their chest size or their rear end, right? These are some of the beautification surgeries that they do. But then you have the ones that when they want to change what a man or a woman should look like. And we're not talking about inversion now. We're talking about completely changing the fact that you are a person. So they now create a creature with horns and studs and bumps and lumps all over their bodies, all over their heads, shave their heads off, tattoo all over their bodies, change the color of their skin, change the color of their eyeballs, all kinds of things they do. And they do these enhancements because they're possessed. And one day they will wake up and realize what a freak they look like, and then they will off themselves. It has happened. Don't tell me it can't happen. It has happened. There was just one guy who was having dreams that he was a tiger. And this guy was in the military. He came out. All right, he came out of the military, living like a civilian now, having these dreams. And he went to a psychologist, and they tell him, well, maybe you should just transform yourself to be like a tiger. So he went and did all these surgeries, tattoo his body, split his lip, implants, you name it. They had a dream that they even added a mechanical tail that was surgically attached to his body. Not joking. File his teeth to be points, you name it. Last dream he had, he was a female tiger, and the psychologist said, why stop there? Go all the way. Make yourself happy. He went and he got breast implants put in. Walking around like a freak. And you know what happened to him? Not too long after that, killed himself. He offed himself. All right? He offed himself. Because no matter what you do, when you follow these quackadoodles, right, in lab coats, they're taking money from you. They don't care about you. They just want your money. And you go to them with a problem, instead of them giving you sound advice and tell you, well, hey, it's just a dream. It's no biggie. Let's focus on what's really going on that may be triggering these dreams. No, no, no. Go and get yourself changed. And that would solve the problem. Certainly solved his problem because he's not here anymore. All right, let's move on. Confusion on every tier have already set in, whether physically, mentally, and even spiritually. Again, all by design. And why I included spiritually is because now they have introduced Satanism in the populations. And they're doing it now even with children. They got the after-school clubs that are teaching the little ones how to think outside of the box, outside of the box that was given to us to remain in, so that we remain as people and we think like people. So they want to remove that box and cause you know to expand yourself into the darkness. Don't let a box limit you. Go beyond the norm. Explore. Experience. Now, I'm not saying that we are not supposed to explore and experience, but we have limits and explore. But what these devils do is that they remove all of that and say, explore. There are no holes, no barriers, no borders. Just take off and learn and enjoy. We have borders, boundaries for a reason. We have them for a reason. They were given to us even from the time we were born. And listen, in the womb, the size of the womb allows you to grow up to a certain size, right? And you stay that size until you're born. You come out of the womb, they put you in a crib. That's your little area that you live in. Put you in a playpen to play in. Then they promote you to a bed. And so on and so forth. Through our lives, we have boundaries given to us not to restrict us, but to preserve us. They're there to preserve us. Otherwise, if you remove the boundaries, then what we're left with is darkness that can just seep in and rob us of our potential to be children of Alahayam, to steal our light even before it has a chance to blossom. Call innocence, what have you. You got little children being treated like adults, dressed like adults, and you got grown men lusting after little babies. Removing the barriers that once surrounded us in every sphere, every tier of life, every tier of our lives, even in marriage. You know, there are boundaries in marriage. We're married, we're together. We're not supposed to be checking out other people, lusting after people, even if they're on TV. You're not supposed to be lusting. That means you're dissatisfied with your marriage. And if it's going to cause that, then you need to get on your knees and pray and stop watching TV, first of all. Cut that out of your system. It's a cancer. It's going to kill and destroy your marriage and you in the process. All right, let's move on. Let's see where I left off here. What we are to understand concerning the days of Nach is the wickedness that was erased by Alahayam through the flood, but the same wickedness has returned in full force. Nach and his 3 sons and their wives were saved in the ark built by Nach as he was commanded by Alahayam. This we will look at in detail in the next study, part 3. So if you have not watched part 3, it was already posted when I discovered the issue with this particular part 2. So now I'm redoing part 2. So if you're watching this for the first time, please watch part 3. It's a very interesting study. When Hamashiach compared the days of Nach to the days in which he will return to the earth, it was to give us understanding that he is coming with judgment to destroy all evil on the face of this earth. Unlike the flood that purged the earth only temporarily, his judgment and subsequent destruction will be permanent to totally eradicate evil from off the face of this earth. So let's look at Matthew chapter 3, verse 12. Whose winnowing fork is in his hand, and he will thoroughly purge his floor and gather his wheat into the garner, but he will burn up the chaff with unquenchable fire. So if you don't belong to him, and if you're not regathered by him, then you're going to be burnt up with unquenchable fire. We see that the days of Nach were some wicked times for man to be alive, and similarly today. These times are extraordinarily wicked and depraved like never seen before. This wickedness has been in the works for a much longer period of time as compared to Nach's era, but this was by divine design, as Alahayam Yahweh will end evil once and for all. He laid his redemption plan for all who will walk in his commandments, and this also includes the Gentiles, if only they will believe in who he is and who we truly are. All right? So, Alahayam Yahweh is allowing the wickedness on this earth today because this is their last go around. And this is our last chance to choose who we will serve. Matthew chapter 24, verse 1. And Yahushua went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to show him the buildings of the temple. And Yahushua said unto them, See you not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of your coming, and the end of the world? And Yahushua answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you. That was the first instruction that he gave to his disciples. Beware of deception. Now, in part one, in the previous study, not in part one. In the previous study that I've done, it was called, let me try to remember what it was called. It was called the sign of the prophet Yahweh. And in that study, the 3 days of darkness, yes. In that study, I looked at when the Pharisees, Sadducees, and the scribes asked him for a sign. Show us a sign. Prove to us who you say that you are. All right, and here we have the disciples asking him to tell them what shall be the sign of your coming and the end of the world. Now, there's a clear difference between the disciples asking him for the sign of his coming compared to the heathens, the scribes, the Pharisees, and the Sadducees asking him to show them a sign from heaven or a sign from himself to prove to them who he said that he was, the son of Alahayam. A big difference. A huge difference. In fact, there's no similarities whatsoever because they already knew who he was. Speaking about his disciples, they already knew who he was. He was and is the son of Alahayam. He proved it to them by fulfilling the prophecies that they recognized. So this question, there are questions when they went to him privately and asked him to tell them what the sign of his coming would be, it was not to provoke him. The Sadducees and the scribes and the Pharisees wanted to provoke him because they never believed him. He came with signs and wonders, miracles, fulfilling scriptures that they would have known, but they refused to believe. And yet they wanted him to show them a sign? No. But here his disciples are asking him about the end times. What is the sign of your return to the earth to reign as king? Is that something wrong? No. They were naturally interested. And they wanted to learn. And he told them. He said the first thing to do, don't be deceived. They wanted to know the sign of his coming and the end of the world. When will it all come to an end, Abba? When will it all come to an end, Adawan? Hamashiach's disciples inquired about the signs of his return and of the end of the world or the end of times. He answered them by outlining the end times events that will usher in his return in the clouds. He gave them a list of things that will occur. His disciples, unlike the Pharisees, Sadducees, and scribes, were seeking to know the truth. His disciples, unlike the Pharisees, Sadducees, and scribes, were seeking to know the truth, whereas the religious leaders were not interested in the truth, but they were always seeking to either provoke him or to trap him in his own word, to prove to the people who listened to him that he was a false prophet and nothing else. Hamashiach already knew the hearts of all people who came before him. He could not be trapped by their snares. He already knew who belonged to him. And though those were the ones he answered when questioned. Another thing to understand is that the religious leaders wanted Hamashiach to show them a sign, although he already was displaying all the signs written in the prophecies. Whereas his disciples wanted to know what the signs would be telling of his return and the end of the world. They were, for the most part, Judas excluded, of course, convinced of his authenticity as the son of Al-Hayyam and believed in him. Therefore, they did not need any more signs from him to prove who he was. So that's the difference. They weren't asking him to provoke him. They were asking about when he is going to return to the earth and when the end of time will be, end of the world will be. Big difference. The signs of the times are here. They are all around us, letting us know that Hamashiach is due to return very soon for his people, the southern kingdom. The northern kingdom will soon afterwards be on their second exodus in the wilderness to be preserved from the wrath of Al-Hayyam. The signs of the times also come with their judgments to separate the sheep from the goats, the righteous from the unrighteous. It is for this reason why Al-Hayyam Yahweh is allowing these devils to carry out their agendas to see who will remain righteous before him, no matter what comes their way, to threaten their existence. Even though they threaten you, threaten your lifestyle, threaten your jobs, whatever. How will you respond? Will you stand for righteousness and holiness, or will you buckle and submit to the devils? A lot of our people did. They buckled really badly too. And now they're realizing, oh, what did we do wrong? Oh, okay, yeah, I'm just going to try to pray and fast this thing away. Can't happen. Mark chapter 8, verse 34. And when he had called the people unto him with his disciples also, he said unto them, whosoever will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his stake and follow me. For whosoever will save his life shall lose it. But whosoever shall lose his life for my sake and the gospel's, the same shall save it. For what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? Whosoever therefore shall be ashamed of me and of my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, of him also shall the Son of Man be ashamed, when he comes in the glory of his Abba with the holy angels. So when he comes, he is coming with judgment for the southern kingdom first, and then he's going to come again as king on this earth to judge all the inhabitants on this earth. And his judgment will continue for 1,000 years. And then after the 1,000 years, then the final war and the final judgment for the Gentiles. All right? So he's coming back as judge now. Now that we have seen the abominations that were upon the earth during Nach's time and have compared those abominations with what is happening in the world today, and we see that it is a direct correlation. We looked at those 6 points and we compared those 6 points to what is happening in the world today. And there's a direct correlation. Therefore, we are to expect Hamashiach any day now. Let's look at Luke chapter 21. Verse 28. And when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draws near. When we start to hear things going on and increasing in their intensity, not just wars and rumors of wars, how about earthquakes? How about conflicts? What have you? When we see the abominations, even, we're seeing an increase of abominations like never before. You know what he says to do? Don't become fearful. He said, just look up. Lift up your heads, mean be exalted. Why? For your redemption draws near. Meaning, I'm coming for you to bring you to safety. So you don't have anything to fear. It's not coming near your house. It may sound as if it's coming near your house, but that's the trick of the enemy, to make you think that it's coming at you in your house right now. So submit to him. But don't submit to the enemy, because he's a liar. He's the father of lies, father of deception, and all that is wicked. We trust in Yahweh Alahayam. We trust in Hamashiach, Yahweh Sha'o. So we don't have to fear. He has us guarded by angels. We may not see them, but we are guarded by angels. Ruach HaKodesh is here too. And he also guards us. He guards our hearts. He guards our minds, so that the devil does not download any wickedness in our minds. The Ruach HaKodesh will tell you, avert your eyes, because what you're looking at is going to come back and haunt you later. So avert your eyes. Turn it off. He said, don't listen to that kind of conversation, because it is going to come back and haunt you later. So he's helping us on the inward parts. And Alahayam Yahweh has his angels guarding his people. And also his word. When we ingest his word and it becomes one with us, even while we're sleeping, we can still sing praises, or we can still rebuke the enemy. Because he can come to us in dreams with certain thoughts and certain ideas. But if you are in the word, and the word is in you, even when you are in a dream that has been infiltrated by the devil, you can just rebuke him even in the dream. You have that power. The word in you has that power. And Ruach HaKodesh, she's going to stir it up, so that you don't have those kinds of dreams. That wickedness that's trying to stir up lust and what have you. You can overcome anything as long as you stay in the word, and Ruach HaKodesh is there to guide you in all righteousness and in holiness. You can overcome any of these wickedness, any of this wickedness that the devil has placed on this earth. Anything at all, as long as you stay the course. All right? So that's the ending of part 2. Hopefully it will upload. Hopefully it will upload. Praises to the Most High, right? All praises